Alright folks, welcome back. I know it's been the first time I've done a video in just a little bit because I've been pretty busy with writing papers and all that fun stuff. But anyway, I'm still here and I still plan on doing this for you guys. So, reason I'm making this video is because I'm actually not going to be here during the next tutoring session per se because I am going out of town. So instead what I thought I would do was make a couple of videos of only two of the problems out of Lab 4. And I feel like that if I explain to you guys exactly how to do these problems, for the number of you that still haven't finished this lab, this should be a good help for you guys to get this thing finished up. So I'm going to split it up into two videos. I'm going to go over problem 1 first, and then I'm going to go over problem 3. And there's a reason that I picked those two. So problem 1 is basically the basis of the whole entire lab. It covers the idea of how to store things into an array, which is extremely important, as you'll see in the future assignments. Now, the good news about the next couple of assignments is there really is nothing new that you're going to have to learn. It starts to get easier from this point on. This is sort of that final stepping stone that you guys are going to need to know to be successful in this class. And the rest of it is just applying what you already know. So this one says, clear the data buffer, fill it by all zeros. We can either fill it with 256 bytes, 128 half words, or 64 words. I'm going to use 64 words, and in the next video you're going to see that we have no choice but to use bytes. So I'm going to keep emphasizing and going back to the point that knowing your data is extremely important. Not particularly in this problem, but for the future ones. So anyway, when you're faced with a problem like this, the first thing that you need to do is you have to give yourself a link into your array. In this case, the array that you're storing things into is your data buffer. So the way you do that is you're going to use load register, and you can use any register you want. I'm going to use R1, and I am linking it directly into my data buffer. Step 2, designate a register which holds the value that we want to store into our data buffer. I'm not going to store 0, I'm going to store the number 5 instead. Don't know why I picked 5, I just did. And then this third part is set up our loop counter. I'm going to use R3 for that. And since we are doing 64 words, our loop counter is going to, of course, be 64. And then when we go into our loop, the first thing that I have to do is store the value of 5 to the first spot in our array. And the way that we do this is we're going to do store, and then the first thing is what value you are using for the store. In this case, you are storing the value which is contained in R2. You're going to send it through your bridge into your data buffer in the square brackets, that's R1. And then after you send the value through, you have to move over to the next spot so you don't insert on top of the first one. And now this is where knowing your data is important. Now we made a choice to use words. And remember, a word is 4 bytes long. So if we kind of imagine, that the idea of imaginary sandpits, I used to be a long jumper in high school. And if one sandpit is 4 feet long, very short sandpit by the way, in order to jump from one sandpit to the next one, you have to jump 4 feet. In this case, in order to move to the next available space, there are 4 bytes that you have to clear. So we are going to move by 4 bytes. And then once we do that, we are going to subtract from our loop counter. And then, while we have not hit the value of 0 in our loop counter, we're going to keep branching back to our loop statement. So pretty simple code, and now that I walked you guys through it, so let's go ahead and build and run it. Alright, so everything checks out good. So we are now at line 61 where we are creating that link that I talked about. And the beginning of that bridge is going to be at address 2 and then a bunch of zeros, 0x2 and a bunch of zeros. And down here I have my memory window opened up, and then I have that address typed in here. So if you look at the very top row, this is that address of where that data buffer starts, right? Right now it's just filled with a bunch of junk, as you can see. But as we execute our code and go into our loop, you can see that slowly but surely we are filling our array with a bunch of 5s. We're filling one spot, and then in order to jump to the next group, I am jumping by 4 bytes. So you can kind of see the pattern from this point on. This is going to happen 64 times. This is a nice, gentle example in how to store things through a register to a data buffer of any kind. So this is a good first step if you guys are struggling. Hope this helped you guys out, and you're going to see that once you understand these first couple of problems, the rest of them are just basically the same exact thing with just a few small tweaks along the way. So hope this one was helpful, and I will see you for the next video.